Hello and welcome to the Road Monkey podcast. My name is Kevin Pickards. If this is your first experience of the show, make sure you hit subscribe and head over to our website to sign up for exclusive podcast listener insights. We've had some great messages over the last few weeks following our first 2 episodes of season 4 with Sarah and Nick, so thank you so much for the feedback and please keep it coming in. This week we speak to 2 entrepreneurs who have been on a mental health journey and are hugely passionate about sharing the lessons learned along the way. Men's mental health is an area that historically has had a stigma associated with it, and Davey and Rob in our discussion explored their experiences of mental health and how their journey has ended up creating an exciting and innovative venture, the Legacy Partnership. So, let's get moving with episode 27 of the Road Monkey podcast, The Wolf Mindset, a discussion with Dr. Davey Hoops and Mr. Rob Sanders, founders of the Legacy Partnership.
Hello, gents. How are we doing?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I've done a short introduction for our listeners and viewers out there, but if you can give us a little bit of an introduction to yourselves, if we start with Rob.
I thought it was always Davey normally gets started with. Oh, caught me off. All right, do you want the full kind of story about sort of where we're at to now and things, or?
Yeah, that sounds great. It's
go for it.
Certainly a story worth sharing.
Yeah, let's go for it. So anyway, guys, so listeners, I'm Rob, part of the Legacy Partnership, as well as Davey. So my backstory, obviously we do a lot of work around men's mental health and things, but I started in the fitness industry for in the fitness and wellness industry now for about 17 years or so, maybe a bit longer. And as a personal trainer, sports therapist, run a Thai boxing gym as well. I had my own sort of issues around mental health and things with when my dad died. So that was a big part of something for me. And Dave and I, we have kind of different stories around our own mental health journeys and kind of what led us to where we are now. But with me, it was more, I was that typical, stereotypical male that happened, ignored it, acted as if nothing had happened. I'm fine. I'm a man, I don't have any problems, all these stupid things that we like to try and tell ourselves and we feel like we should believe. And then it wasn't until later on down my sort of journey around the kind of the mental health sort of stuff, I was going through my own coaching and sort of NLP and CBT, all these sort of different therapies and things. And it wasn't until my coach sort of turned around to me, he was like, you do know you're suffering with like depression and things like that, because I was avoiding seeing clients, seeing friends, all these stupid things. And I've always been lucky. I've had jobs that I've absolutely loved and always loved to do. But when you're not turning up for them, or you're trying to cancel things and making up these stupid reasons, there's big warning signs there, trying to hide away in your house and stuff like that. So yes, it wasn't for me going through my own sort of coaching journey, then wanting to know more about mindset, all these different things. Obviously, I mentioned the fitness side to it. I worked with fighters and stuff like that. So mindset and things anyway just fascinated me, and everything about sort of human body and anatomy and all these sort of things. So I wanted to know more, went on to be internationally qualified coach, NLP practitioner, moved up to the northeast where I met the other one, Davey, and kind of realised we was going on the same sort of path and journey and had the same values and what we wanted in terms of and how we wanted to help people and things, and then decided to make the Legacy Partnership. So, and that brings us to now.
Awesome. Well, we'll explore the Legacy Partnership in a sec, but Davey, if you can just give us an insight into your journey to this point.
Yeah. So similar to Rob, mental health issues, which is where this kind of business all came from. So back in July 2017, I was essentially my dream job, and I was delighted to be in that role, was made redundant, and that essentially sent me on this downward spiral. So I ate my way to oblivion, essentially. So over the next 6 months, I kind of was feeling really low and didn't want to leave the house, and essentially just eat everything to deal with those emotions. So I put on 70 pounds in that kind of 4 or 5 months, which obviously is a heck of a lot of body fat to gain. Was clinically diagnosed with depression and had to take medication, and was really just locked in the house and went through that kind of 6 months of 2017 in really quite a dark place. And then I always tell the story when we were sitting around kind of around Christmas time 2017, I got given this t-shirt by my mother-in-law, as we do, swap presents, and I opened this t-shirt, and it was I can never tell what size it was, but it was an XL with 3 more X's. So it was like a quadruple XL or a triple XL. And I've kind of held this t-shirt up and thought, you know what, nice t-shirt, thank you, but I'm never ever going to wear this t-shirt. That was kind of my wake up call, almost my awakening. And then the funny part of that story is, kind of fast forward 15 minutes, when we're around the Christmas table having dinner, I had this shirt on that was so tight. It was there was a danger that the buttons were going to ping off and hit my father-in-law in the face. So I had to actually go and change and put this massive t-shirt on, and then I was like, right, well, this is the only time I'm ever going to wear it. So got through Christmas, got through New Year, and then kind of learned about mindset, tried to understand, the good things that I still had in my life, found new purpose, lost 70 pounds. Came off medication, and started the legacy partnership with Rob, and like we say, we've started to do some really good things and started to help lots of good people in similar positions. So yeah, all's really good with my world now, which is obviously really, really cool.
That's awesome. Well, thanks both for giving us such an honest insight into kind of your journeys to this point. I'm kind of keen to unpick, because we've got these two like very individual journeys, but seem to be kind of heading in the same direction and now kind of working collaboratively. What does that look like? Tell us about this partnership, where the concept came about, and then what it is you guys actually do now. Don't know who wants to go first.
I think Rob does.
I knew he was going to say this. So the concept, actually, I'll tell you about the because we've got a few things that we do. We've got different stuff. We've worked obviously corporate athletes, and then around the I'll Become the Wolf sort of mastermind, and the movement we've kind of started with that, which is a men's health one. So I'll tell you about the movement, and I'll let Davey do the partnership bit, because he explains it a lot better than me. So I like the way he explained it. So the movement one, it was around obviously to do with men's mental health. It's a thing that we started. It's hashtag Become the Wolf. It came from an actual story, which is from Davey's, one of his stories around when he's got a big black German Shepherd, and depression's known as a black dog. You're getting a visit from the black dog and things like that. And as he was out sort of walking, there's a little girl, or people always kind of say, oh, look, Daddy, there's a wolf. And then he kind of wanted to reframe it. It was a technique that we use quite a lot in coaching and that kind of that sort of world of things, about changing things into more of like trying to get a positive spin around sort of an event or something that might be going on. And you sort of change it to, well, instead of getting a visit from the black dog, why don't we change this to a wolf and try and turn it into more of an empowering thing to work around sort of depression, anxiety, mental health and things. So then that's what we went with. And then we started the concept around the Become the Wolf movement, which we get people to just add the hashtag into their bios and things like that, just to kind of show that support. And it's taken off really well. We get a lot of people saying they really resonate with the whole sort of wolf mindset over that kind of black dog turning up and things. So yeah, it's been great. It's been really good.
I think yeah, and I think just to build on that, Rob, that when men get a visit, no one wants to be visited by the black dog, to be labeled that they are depressed, to be in this dark place. And what we did, we kind of just spun that and thought, what, fuck that, we want this thing, we want to have this visit, and we want to become this animal, this wolf, and this powerful creature, and actually use it as a positive. So yeah, and I think it gives it almost destigmatizes men's mental health a little bit, because it makes it something that men are passionate about and excited about. So and that's what the initial kind of Become the Wolf movement started as, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's great. And like I said, it's been really good, taken off nicely. Everyone just loves that kind of that wolf mindset. So
let's unpick that. I guess take it a few kind of layers back to actually just mental health as a subject area, and especially men's mental health. we were discussing before we came on air that once we're out of this mess that the world currently finds itself in, we're likely to have a tidal wave of mental health issues that are a byproduct of, everyone being stuck at home for so long. So kind of what was kind of the driver for you before all of this? Was it kind of purely rooted in your personal journeys, or when you were kind of discussing things and you realized, oh, well, it's not just me, there's so many more people out there that could do with this kind of support? Like, how did all that come about from a mental health point of view?
Yeah, so the Legacy Partnership came about because Rob and I did both have that synergy in interests and backgrounds, but also that passion for helping others who are similar to what we've kind of been through. And the real positive, we kind of feel we have two kind of positive attributes in that. One, we've both been through that transformational journey from major mental health issues to coming out of the other side and knowing how to do that and to, refine that happiness and, that fulfillment in your life. So we had that as an opportunity to kind of share with other people. And then the second one was kind of, our transparency. There's a lot of people who claim to be comfortable kind of talking about mental health, which is great. But what Rob and I really like to do is go that extra level and really be raw with it and make mental health accessible, men's mindset accessible, and be truly open about it. And that was one thing certainly that helped me, which was being so open and accepting of these challenges that I found in my life, really opening my arms to that and welcoming those challenges in. That was one of the things that helped kind of move through those challenges and turn them into opportunities. So that would probably be the underpinnings to where the Legacy Partnership kind of started, wouldn't you say, mate?
Yeah, no, definitely. The only thing I'd sort of add on is obviously we're very open about it for me as well, that talking, because I was completely shut off. Like as Davey knows, when we first started sort of doing things, he's like, come on, just share your story a bit. It's part of that kind of therapy. And it is, the more you talk about it, the easier it gets, the more people resonate with it, and it helps other people, it gives value. But then the only other thing I'd add on to it is just our sort of passion for that. Sort of, again, for my journey, I've worked with people with mental health. I kind of fell into it through the sports therapy side of things. Just happened to do some work with someone who was really suffering, who was agoraphobic and things like that. And then again, wanted to look even more into how the mind's working and how we can use exercise and different things to help, not just the physical side, but that kind of mental side to it. And then there's just a big part of, like Dave and I always say to people, that you're not your diagnosis, that you can get better. There are ways to do it. You don't have to, if you've been told you're depressed, then believe that you are the depressed person. That's it now for the rest of your life. There are things that you can do, and these things can be done. All you've got to do is just teach them and just take that action on it. And we get really kind of passionate about that and just being like, look, just try it. Unless you try, you're never going to know. And there's a famous quote that we really love, that nothing changes if nothing changes. So we're like, just take action, just try it. Try one thing, whether it's mental health, the exercise, the talk therapies, whatever it is, it's going to help in some form or another.
Do you find that actually talking, whether it's professionally or whether it's actually just within your circle of friends, you almost give that unconscious permission to actually start the conversation? Because not so much that there's a lack of willingness to address mental health maybe within your close circles, but actually people, it's a fear factor. And before we've got this episode kind of put together, one of the things you guys said is we are really comfortable having uncomfortable discussions, and that almost feels like the biggest hurdle to get over, is that kind of elephant in the room of how's the weather, how's your day been, how's the week going, and you just talk about anything other than actually the one thing that you inside are burning to talk about, but everyone just feels like they're treading on eggshells.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that didn't always come easily either. It is a process, kind of getting to a stage where having an open and frank discussion around your personal mental health. It does take time, and it's with the right people as well. So you might have groups of people that you talk to, work colleagues, or friends of friends or whatever, that you aren't comfortable opening up to, but you will have that small group of family or friends who you do feel comfortable opening up to. And you know what, if it's kind of you've got to be brave. And, we found that. I know Rob and I have had that conversation where we did a podcast around kind of talking about suicide. And something we were really, really keen to do was, have a really difficult conversation about how to deal with suicide or suicidal thoughts, whether either you were having those suicidal thoughts or if you knew someone who was having suicidal thoughts. And, we kind of had to kind of be brave ourselves with that. And, that was a challenge. But once we'd gone through that process and had that conversation between us, we knew the next time that, we were a lot more comfortable doing that, and it was well received as well. So yeah, I think being brave and being ready to acknowledge where you're at and being open and is a good place to start with that.
How did it feel? I was going to say, Rob, how did it feel for you? Because obviously coming from a different part of the country, moving up north, kind of starting these conversations in perhaps a world you weren't traditionally hugely comfortable in. What was that like, kind of new environment, new type of conversation going on, and actually then becoming a business as well? Like, did it all kind of come together like that?
Yeah, it did come together. It was tricky. Like going back to Davey's story about us doing the podcast around suicide and suicidal thoughts and things. We had a chat just before doing it, and to be honest, I was against it at first because I was in that category of, we can't talk about these things. And this was when I was just getting used to opening up and talking more and talking about my own journey. And it wasn't until I think I sent you a message and going, do you know what? No, let's do it. Let's jump on it and we'll just go through it. So we kept it open. So it was us just having a chat, and I openly admitted I wasn't too comfortable about talking about it. But as you go through it, you get a lot more comfortable. And it was like, but we needed to talk about it. That was the main thing. It was like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but that's why we have to talk about it, and we need to do more around it. And then so moving up here and things, I was quite comfortable moving up here. I'm one of these people I love this area, part of the country. I'm happy to move around. I've travelled. I take after my mum. My mum's the same. She'll live anywhere and experience anything. The hardest bit was opening up a bit more. I know Dave and I have actually got two different stories on this one, so I'm sure he'll bring up his one in a bit. When I mentioned it to my friends, like, do you know what, actually, when I was back in Essex, I was suffering and thought I'd try and talk to them about it. And they all just kind of went, yeah, I knew. Like, my close friends just knew. They're like, yeah, we knew. That's why we stayed close to you and kept an eye on you and made sure things were okay. I know Davey's got a completely different story about it because they were quite accepting, whereas his wasn't. So, which I'm sure he'll delve into. But then, like you said as well, Kevin, the more I spoke about it, I now actually have other close friends or people I haven't even spoke to for God knows how long will drop me a message and openly just start talking about their mental health and things now, which is great because I've opened up, which means that they now feel comfortable that they can kind of talk about it and open up about it and things. But yeah, I'm sure, Davey, you should tell them about your story.
I think before I do that, Kevin, one of the main reasons Rob found it so easy to talk to me about his story was that I can't understand anything he's saying because of his accent. So my kind of situation was a little bit different to Rob's in terms of the accepting around kind of mental health and physical changes I'd seen. Basically, my whole background prior to becoming morbidly obese was, and having mental health issues, was I was kind of I was an elite athlete. So basically I sat a couple of friends down and said, I'm suffering with these issues. I'm going to work through them, or start to work through them, and I'm going to go and I've got ambitions to help other people. And their immediate response was, have you done this because you want to start a business in this? So rather, they saw it as a kind of a means to an end, rather than, no, I'm actually just suffering from depression and I'm morbidly obese. So yeah, it was definitely a different conversation to, we're here for you, we've got lots of support for you, that sort of thing. It was more of that's completely different from your background. What's actually going on here? So yeah, very different.
Did you find, I guess for both of you, that it's such a traditionally difficult area, if you like, because we're of a generation where obviously because of things like social media and things like that, it is easier to kind of spread these kind of messages. But actually, do you think we're of that generation that we're the trailblazers, if you like? Because if you talk to the generation before us, you know, I know about like Rob, your experience with your dad, but my dad, it'd be, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm fine. And that would be it. That's all you're getting. And we did, I recorded it recently. We did a review show of the last year and got some listeners on to ask questions. And one of the guys who came on, I know reasonably well. And he said to me, who would you interview? Like dead or alive? And I said, I'd really be interested to go back and interview my dad, but I don't know if he would have the ability to answer the questions that I would now ask, because I'm in that space and have moved forward, I guess, in line with these kind of programs that you're offering, and actually are more comfortable with it. But I think we're not in a minority, but we're of a generation almost removed from the last one. I don't know what your thoughts are collectively on that.
Yeah. So I'm with you with the dad thing. My dad was, or a lot of what my mum thinks are mine and my brother's issues and hang-ups that we've had. And like I said, when I've had my own coaching, and I actually used to train a hypnotherapist, and she wanted to do some free sessions because she used to always pick up things, which was quite interesting. And they all think that a lot of the stuff I've like around my limiting beliefs and things that I've worked through and still work through now come from him, because he was of that generation of, he wouldn't tell you well done, he wouldn't tell you that you love, like we'd go and compete, and you know, we've competed as swimmers and played squash for the county, all these different things. You come back, tell him like, oh Dad, I won, and he'd just kind of look at you, nod and go, okay, yeah, whatever, and that was it. So like we was always trying to fight for that attention, and then if you did try and ever attempt to talk to him about any kind of emotional thing, it was a complete shut down, shut off, ignore you, which is probably what like my wife always says to me. She used to always go, you've got no emotions, and my mum's like, it's his dad, gets that from his dad. Things. So it does, you know, so we are completely different, but where now, like you said, we've got social media, is a lot easier for us, and we are, even though it's still tough for people to talk about, but there's more awareness around it, which is a good thing. So it is a lot easier for us to kind of start talking about it a lot more, I think. But yeah, my dad was definitely in the same with your generation. There's a lot of if I could have a chat with him now about it, I think it'd be quite funny. So, what about you, Davey?
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think that's why we kind of see our role. It's so important for us to all continue to work towards developing this kind of more open dialogue around men's mental health. And I'm sure that over time that previous generation, or hopefully over time that previous generation might actually kind of be comfortable themselves opening up and talking about their challenges. Perhaps maybe that's ambitious, but for our role, yeah, definitely being that trailblazer is something that I think you've nailed it there, Kevin. Definitely.
I think I think back to probably about 6 months after I lost my dad and went for drinks with my dad's friends, just to check in, see how they're all doing, and have a chat. And I just started going through some of the processes in terms of support. And one of the things I found was just telling them that, they were like, oh my God, really? And they couldn't believe it. Well, not they couldn't believe it, but it was just like, I was quite open with it. And I think at that point, since I've spoken to any of them on an individual basis, they have been more open talking to me about it. And I think, it is that kind of unconscious permission thing. But you almost feel like, certainly from our generation, we're fighting against the grain a little bit, because traditionally this is not how these sorts of things are approached. But it's, we all have, everyone out there is going to lose somebody at some point, and we all have highs, obviously, with our lives, but we all have lows as well. And actually, there's nothing wrong with picking up your hand and saying, I need help.
Exactly, that's it, and that's exactly right. We always say you've got to, we're the feelings that we get, we're meant to have. They're there for a reason. We can feel them. It's how we kind of bounce back from them, deal with them, and cope with them, and don't let them kind of take over us, which is the important bit. And you're definitely right with that. We've got to be able to get people to be able to say, I need a bit of help, I just need someone to talk to, or whatever. There's no shame in it. There's no shame in hiding it. And that was a big thing. And again, I'll say from my side of it, I was one of those people that I used to just think there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said about when my dad died, I acted as if he never even existed after he died and things, just because that was obviously my way of putting a brave face onto it and things. I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I've only just started obviously going through my own process and things. Now, when I picture him, I can actually picture what he was like before he died, before he got ill and things like that. Whereas before that, all I could picture was when I went to see him, like in his coffin and things like that, and see him dead. That was literally all the picture I could get of him. So I would just shut it off. I just literally, my brain would just go, no, you never even was sort of here. Whereas now, going through this and actually openly admitting, do you know what? I had some issues around it. I had some depression around it. My friends, luckily, they knew, so they were kind of keeping an eye on me anyway. Then when I went through my own processes, now, if I think back to him, I can actually pull up these really nice memories of what we've had and things like that. So, but you're definitely right. The we call them dinosaurs, don't we, Davey? We've come up against a few of them with the work that we do as well, especially the corporate side. You get a lot of the younger generation, obviously, now trying to get people like us in because they know that wellness is a big thing and mental health and things. But then where you've got people sort of higher up, they're obviously their bosses. They're normally the ones that kind of go, nah, you don't need them in here. We're fine. Just get on with it. Just shut up. Get on with your work and things. So you definitely get that in all aspects of life, I think, now.
Question then for Davey, just to bring this out a little bit. Let's say we've got somebody listening out there who can go, oh, I'm having a rough time at the moment, or yeah, maybe something happened a year ago, 2 years ago, that I don't think perhaps I've dealt with. What does that process actually look like of support? Because some people seem to think that it's, super clinical. There's just one way of doing things, and if that's not for me, then that's it. And it couldn't be any further from the truth, could it?
Yeah, no, yeah, completely the opposite. I mean, for my personal story, my clinical journey made me gain 70 pounds, and it was when I came off medication and looked to a different route. That's when the positive changes started to happen. So my always my go-to answer for this, for anybody who's similar, redundant, lost someone, in a dark headspace, the thing that grounds me every day, and it has since January 2018, so kind of nearly 2-3 years now, is gratitude. So the immediate response to that question is, what do you have at the moment that you are grateful for? And the thing that I always bring myself back to, it's my wife, my cat, my dog. If I've got those three things, nothing in this world can kind of come into our little happiness bubble almost. We can be in any house, we can drive any car, it can be any job. I've got those three things in my life, then I'm in a really, really good position. So that would be kind of the first thing, what's going well for you at this moment in time? Do you have and you can break that down. Do you have a roof over your head? Yes. Do you, if you don't have that, do you still have access to food? Yes. Okay, great. And you can really break it down as low as you can to find that tiny grain of positivity to then build on. And then the second part of that is, once you have found that gratitude, that gratefulness for something, can you see the road ahead rather than as a challenge, as a massive problem? Can you see it as an opportunity? So when I woke up on kind of January 1st, 2018, with being my morbid obesity, my depression, and my redundancy kind of staring me in the face, the thing that got me through was being grateful for my wife, my dog, my cat, and then reframing those three things as an opportunity to shape the body I want, to refine my kind of happiness and fulfillment, and to create a business rather than a job that I'm so passionate about. And their strategies, you can just learn those techniques, you can implement them yourself, and that's definitely a route that we kind of advocate, rather than definitely that clinical route, for sure.
I think it's interesting you pick that up, and it's quite timely. Although obviously this goes out a bit later, me and Rob were pinging emails backwards and forwards, back end of last week, when we effectively all got told, oh, by the way, there's no Christmas this year. And immediately you could see that split of how people kind of perceived it, processed it, and dealt with it. Some of them, outrage and frustration and anger, which, is of course natural. But actually, we were saying on the emails, right, well, I've got 2 weeks, going to do this, going to make the best of this, got this time at home instead of driving around everywhere. So actually I'm going to make most of that. Yeah. And it's kind of, the reframing thing is huge. And I've found that fascinating, that coming at it from the sports world where I spend a lot of time, actually that's something that you see successful sports people do, but then you actually start looking into other areas. And I was interviewed a few pilots in the last few seasons, done a really interesting interview with a Netflix producer who talks about her journey, and actually their ability to reframe massively challenging situations and find that shred, even if it is a tiny little thing, and then go, right, well, I've got that and I'm going to build from there. I mean, what's that been like for you, Rob? Because obviously you've had some interesting stuff with the sports background, and then obviously all your coaching stuff as well. What's kind of been that process for you?
Yeah, so reframing is a big one. We love reframing. Dave and I do. It's one of our tools we like to try and teach everyone. It's like anyone we speak to and things. It's an amazing thing. So lots of different things I'd say from my journey. My biggest one, my biggest reframe is what you was talking about. Getting that tiny bit of hope and trying to find something from it. There's different types of reframing. So obviously the listeners and things, obviously the idea around reframing is we can't change the event, but we can change sort of the meaning and the context of the event that's kind of happened, and we can sort of change our perception of it. So the one I use when I'm trying to sort of explain it to people is I really like gratitude reframing. It's kind of like Davey's already mentioned, gratitude and things and the power of gratitude. But it's a really powerful way of reframing if you can get your head around it. Because I know events happen and people tend to kind of go, well, how can I be grateful for anything from that? So my version of it is when I lost my dad. Obviously it was the biggest event that's kind of happened to me. I'd do anything to have him back, have a day with him. I'm sure, like you would, Kevin, as well, just even spend an hour, 10 minutes or whatever would be amazing. But for me, it was the way I kind of reframed it when looking back over it. And when I was going through my journey, was that if that event didn't happen, he actually, when he was dying, we got left some money and house and things like that. He said, do something sensible and then do something you want to go and do. So I invested in getting a house, and then I went traveling, which is something I always wanted to do. I wanted to go traveling and see different parts of the world and so on. And I went traveling, and then I met who is now my wife. So the way I kind of reframe it is, if it wasn't for that event, it wasn't for him, I actually wouldn't have met her. And then to make Davey feel a little bit better, because he likes it when I add this bit in, she went to his school. So when we moved up here, she was like, oh, I think you should have a chat with Davey. He went to my school. He's got some similar sort of viewpoints as you and the posts and things like that. So I went and obviously met up with Davey, and then we made the Legacy Partnership. So if it wasn't for that one event happening, I might not be down this route that I'm going down now, which I absolutely love and passionate about and things. So that's a big one for me in terms of explaining that kind of gratitude reframe, or how you can take such a big event that you can't see anything good from it and actually turn it into something positive and something from that. In terms of the sporting side, there is, I don't know if you've heard of it, David knows this story quite a lot. I love a thing called neutral mindset. I don't know whether you would have heard of it, or you heard of a guy called Trevor Moawad. He's a big sporting coach, coach of things, and his way with like reframing is kind of what we said when we was having an email back and forth. When I think you come out of it actually straight away was focus on the things you can control rather than the things you can't control. And a big part of his thing is this neutral mindset, which I love, and I think it really helps with mental health. He coined it around sports, and this is where I kind of used it in that as well. When you have fighters and they might be in the middle of losing a fight, and then you need to get them to focus on, rather than falling into that spiral, focus on the things you can just control in this moment. You can step out and keep your guard up, you can focus on certain techniques and movements and so on. But the idea of the neutral mindset is, rather than always going to people, be positive, be positive, be positive, especially if you've got someone who's suffering with depression or something like that, like Dad's just died, you got the epidemic, people are going crazy about the Christmas thing, and you're going, be positive, be positive. People are just going to tell you to kind of do one and whatever. But we don't want anyone to go into a negative spiral. So we don't want to be positive, we don't want to be negative. So we go for that neutral bit. So the idea of the neutral thing is go, right, what can you do in this moment? So in this moment to keep moving forwards. And it really works well with people suffering mental health. It works in the sporting world. It works in everything, business and so on. Because it could be, okay, what can you do in this moment? Well, I've lost my job. It's really bad. Okay, what can I do? Well, I could start looking for another job. I could update my CV. I'll just do that now. Okay, now I've updated my CV. Well, I'll have a look for some things. Okay, I'll have a look for some things. Oh, there's something I might apply for. Oh, I can apply for that. So the idea is you're not thinking about trying to be positive or where it's going to go and take you. You're just doing what you can do in the moment in the now to stop you spiraling and ending up, you know, down this kind of this nasty rabbit hole that we don't want to get down. So yeah, that's one I really like, and I found in that kind of sporting world, it's just transitions into everything: sporting world, mental health, the corporate world, life, whatever it is you go for that neutral mindset to keep pushing through. I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer for you there, but
I really like it. I really like that, and I think I mean, one of the groups I did, obviously interrupted by the pandemic, but I did a walking group locally for just people who have lost people and suffering through various aspects of their mental health. And one of the things that I found really interesting of it was the way that the leaders of that group talk constantly about reframing, and not what you should or shouldn't do in terms of contextually saying you must do this or you must do this, but just offering you like different viewpoints on things and actually then laying a seed for you to then take away and do stuff. And one of the things they said was like, what's one of been the big gifts of the pandemic to people who have been fortunate enough to not be personally affected by it, whether that's through health or work or whatever it is. And anyone who travels a lot will turn around and go, time, the value of time, especially for people who spend time on the road. So, you know, previously to all of this, I'd probably be doing 2,000 miles a month of driving. Well, actually, that's a lot of hours. And actually, suddenly it's like time back. So then you're like, I'm really grateful for that. And actually, but people, you know, in 20 years time, 30 years time, you know, our kids will look back and go, oh my God, that pandemic must have been awful and all this sort of stuff. And then you can sit there and go, well, yes, there was some absolutely horrible aspects to it, but actually, in your head you can go, well, actually I read 20 books that year and I started a business and I did this and I did that and I did that. And I think it's just those little like baby steps, but actually it stops you on that spiral and it sends you in the right direction a little bit at a time in a manageable way. Because if you bounce from one to the other constantly, it can get a bit unmanageable. But having something where you feel like, oh, that was all right, yeah, little step, like you said, do my CV or update a bit of my CV, and then tomorrow update a little bit more, and then before you know it, at the end of the week you've done 7 positive steps and you feel like you're in a better place than you were before.
Exactly.
I think it's really interesting. I love that point, Kevin, about how you've used the pandemic or reframed the pandemic, and I think you can tell a lot about an individual's kind of mental state in a way when you do ask them about, you know, how are you finding the pandemic at the moment, or how have you been, that sort of thing. And, you know, if they're very if they're struggling, you know, they can't see those positive opportunities in the pandemic. And obviously, you know, it goes without saying that there's lots of negatives that the coronavirus has brought, obviously. But, you know, something that I love again was that, you know, what can you control in this setting? What have you gained back? And, you know, it sounds, Kevin, like you've been productive. Lots of books read there, lots of podcasts done and courses done, things like that. Sounds good.
Well, we wouldn't have been having this conversation. And I think, you know, in 10 years' time, naturally, we probably would have got to Zoom and Teams and all these other things. But actually, the level of connection we've made in a very short space of time. I mean, I work in the swimming world, and we had a guy who sorted out a coaches network, like a mailing list, and said, oh, once a week during this lockdown, while there's not a lot going on, we're just going to get all coaches from around the world coming on basically a Zoom call. And I remember, like, within a week, we had like an Olympic champions coach in Australia on a call with 100 coaches from around the country. That would normally be like a 2-day conference that would cost a fortune. Everyone was still staying at home, and you came off it like, they're onto something here. But then actually it's like, right, now apply that mentality to every aspect of your life. You know, I've been FaceTiming my gran, you know, it's like, could you imagine having that discussion 2 years ago? And there were probably pockets of it here and there, but actually this year has allowed so much connectivity, and for what you guys do, and actually bringing that kind of message to the listeners and the viewers and everyone out there who could be struggling right now in some aspects of their life. That's a hugely powerful thing that you're doing. So it's exciting.
Yeah, no, definitely exciting. No, like same. Sorry, mate. I was going to say same like you had with people connecting in and things like that. We had that as well with right at the beginning of the pandemic and things. We got asked to come in, and just before it happened, we was lucky enough to get asked to be a keynote speaker. So we went off and actually done a keynote talk, which was really nice. And then literally as we was coming back from that, you could see like the pandemic was kicking in. Those trains were empty, all these sort of
week before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was crazy time. And then that same company, when this kicked off, jumped on the bandwagon straight away, messaged us and just said, can you come in and do an international training? And same sort of thing. So we jumped on the Zoom for the first time ever, with over 100 odd people from their company in all different pockets of the world. And like you said, it was an amazing thing to be able to right, that's it now we can connect with these people, which you could do anyway. But like you said, the pandemic's brought that out, that people now realise, actually, I could have been doing this ages ago. I could have been connecting with America, Australia, all these places and people. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, like, picking up on that positive thread there, what does the next 12 months look like? Because we're obviously perhaps in a lot more of an optimistic place than we were maybe 6 months ago. But actually, now you've got all of this network and this ideas, and you're off and running, and all these things are going well. What does the future look like for you guys? What are the ambitions with the legacy partnership, but also for yourselves? What does the future hold?
Well, for the company, so for the legacy partnership, I think it's very much kind of continue doing what we're doing. We're starting to make some good strides, and we're starting to kind of have some good positive conversations with men around their mindset and mental health, which is great. As in terms of kind of where we're at, we've started to work internationally, which is great. We'd love to do more of that. That definitely came kind of quicker than expected, definitely. But again, because of the pandemic, we went from kind of a national company to have worked in every continent. Over a period of kind of 6 weeks, it happened really quickly. So definitely kind of continue that kind of growth internationally, I think, is something that's quite exciting, and poses different challenges as well. But we love podcasting, getting to know people, speaking open and honestly about kind of mental health, the challenges that are faced, and being as transparent as possible. So very much kind of more of the same, Rob. I don't know if you've got any other ideas.
No, that's exactly it. We just want to reach as many people as we can, and like we said, the pandemic, as horrible as it is, but reframe it, has given us that platform to be able to do that, and it's given people that platform now to realise they can connect with all these different people. So I think for us, it's just that getting a bit more international. We've got obviously our masterminds we run. We do these other little events that we have going on. And I think it's just, in the big picture, is just to reach as many people as we can, shout about men's mental health. And also the big thing about us, which I mentioned at the beginning, is that passion around you're not your diagnosis. We are out here to help you. There's other people out there to help you. Whether you listen to us, you listen to someone else, doesn't matter. Just do something, take some action on it, work on it.
Okay, so obviously we'll include links to the website and social media and all those sorts of things in the show notes and in the show follow-up. But if you kind of had to look back, obviously it's been a very interesting 12 months, but perhaps all the way from the start of your journey, you personally into where you are professionally now, what would be kind of that one takeaway message you'd say to both guys and girls out there that are listening to this going, maybe actually I should pay a bit more attention to my mental health, or I didn't even know these sorts of things existed and I'd like to find out more? What would be like your one message to people out there? I'll start with Davey. I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah. So though, I'm coming at this if you're maybe struggling a little bit, if you're feeling maybe low, reaching for the cupboard a little bit, similar to kind of what I was. I definitely think that, being really aware of those feelings, why you might be feeling like that, and then it is taking that action and taking that positive steps. And my whole message, my big thing is that gratitude and being kind of really aware of something positive that's going on in your life that you can really acknowledge. It could be a cat. Mine's my cat, my dog, my wife. It could be anything. It could be a pet fish. Whatever you've got going on. Really just be thankful and be grateful, and then use that as a springboard to take more positive action and to start to kind of progress yourself forward. But it's definitely it's definitely, people sometimes think that there's no option, as in there's no way to make positive progress. There definitely is. We just need to kind of start with that self-awareness, and then really reflect on the positive things that are in your life, and that's a pretty good start.
Awesome. And then Rob, what are your thoughts?
I would go with, I think my one is one of my mantras that I have every day, which is 1% every day is something that I always say. And the idea around it is, so, you know, if you're struggling or wherever you are in your journey and so far, is look to improve that 1% every day, because it's easy, it's manageable, rather than people, you know, you get these people that just go, all right, come on, you just got to get on with it. You know, we need to be from here to here by now. But that 1%, whether it's you want to read that bit more, whether you've 1% on taking action on, looking at a website that's around mental health, whatever it is that you're trying to do, personal, business life, you know, relationships, work on improving 1% every day, because over time, when you look back at that, that's just going to keep building up and building up and building up. And people that do struggle with things like anxiety and stuff like that kind of those fear of the unknown and those what ifs, that 1% is manageable. It's easy. It's only going into that stretch zone rather than that uncomfortable zone, and it will slowly build up and build up. And over time, you'll look back over that year or whatever it is and how much has changed in your life.
Brilliant. All right, well, thank you so much for your time today, gents. It's been really insightful and hopefully made a lot more people out there aware of a subject that definitely needs more light.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Kevin, thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it.
A big thanks again there to Davey and Rob for sharing some great insights with us. The final thoughts there of being grateful for something every day, finding the positives, working on the 1% changes, and using that as a springboard for 2021. Something I know all our listeners can take away and turn into actions. For the podcast and looking forwards, we've got some really exciting episodes coming up over the coming weeks. Make sure you're signed up to the monthly updates and you'll get exclusive behind the scene insights from our podcast guests, as well as a host of other useful pieces of information, including book reviews and signposting to other podcasts that we think you might like. Coming up next week, we speak to former international basketball player, UK coaching coach developer and West Ham coach Jenny Cody. She's the epitome of thinking outside of the box, and we are certainly looking forward to sharing that discussion with you. Until next week, thanks for joining us for the Rogue Monkey Podcast.